Hello and welcome to this Philbert Flies pre-release preview of Aerosoft's upcoming Twin Otter for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is not a complete review because I'm looking at a beta build today, so there are certain things that are unfinished or not yet implemented, but I am going to give you my opinion on the aircraft in its current state and talk you through what it's like to fly. We're at Land's End Airport on the southwestern tip of mainland England at the moment, and the plan is to fly a short hop from here to St Mary's Airport on the Isles of Scilly. This is a real-life route flown in Twin Otters by Skybus, but because there's not yet a Skybus livery for the aircraft, we're going to fly in Solomon's Airlines livery. Before we get on with the tricky business of flying though, let's have a good close look at this beautiful old chunk of a plane. The exterior model is exceptionally good. The aircraft's skin is realistically imperfect, with tiny little dents here and there, as you can see from the way the light is reflected as we move around it. The texture work is very good, with the exception of the leading edges of the wings, which do look a little blurry as you get up close. The cockpit looks stunning, with some realistic wear and tear all over, but particularly on the yokes, and even a boot print on the lower part of the instrument panel. The cabin's stunning as well, with high quality texturing throughout and realistic lighting. Okay, let's get this plane set up and into the air. I won't talk you through everything I'm doing, partly because that's not the purpose of this preview video, and partly because I don't yet fully know what I'm doing, so I don't want to mislead you. What I'll do instead is whiz through the engine start procedure as quickly as I can, and show you bits and bobs that I think you'll find interesting. One of the main things to bear in mind as we go through this flight is that not all of the sounds are implemented yet, and those that are not in their final state. You'll notice in particular that a few switches are silent, there's no touchdown sound, and the left engine sounds a bit dodgy. This will all be sorted out before release. So the propeller animations at the moment are a little bit clunky, it must be said. They don't smoothly spin up or smoothly spin down, but once the engines are running, they look pretty good. And that's the gist of how you start the engines, so let's get taxied out to the runway. Parking brake off. and just a little bit of thrust to get us going. Now this aircraft taxis absolutely beautifully, really easy to control. Ground handling is smooth and responsive, absolutely nothing to complain about, I'm very impressed. You can, if you wish, hide the yokes by clicking the click spot on the floor here, and that will of course give you a much better view of your direction indicator and other things. Right, we'll turn our strobe lights on and we'll backtrack and line up on runway 34. And as we do so, we will set our flaps. And here we go. So this aircraft really doesn't need much speed at all to get airborne. In fact, that bump has just done it for us. So you can rotate at about 65 knots, something like that. And getting it into the air is really very smooth indeed. It does, however, require quite a lot of trim as speed increases. So I have got the trim bound to 2 buttons on my side stick, but the trim control is down here if you want to do it by hand. And we'll make a left turn now to take us out to the west towards the Scilly Isles. Now, Aerosoft have included an autopilot in this aircraft, which you can use should you choose to, but my understanding is that autopilots in Twin Otters in the real world are very rare indeed. So I'm going to opt to hand fly this, and I'm going to level us off at about 3,000 feet. The manual has some pretty comprehensive data on maximum torque settings for a given RPM, which I have studied a little bit, but for now what I'm going to do is bring the propeller levers down a little bit and reduce my torque to keep us cruising somewhere below 160 knots. This flight typically, having looked at Flight Radar 24, seems to actually fly at about 140 knots, presumably for fuel efficiency. I'm not 100% sure. But that's what I'm going to aim for. And there she is. Really nice looking aircraft. A beautiful model, an unusual looking plane, But yeah, I really like it. And we'll just try and keep clear of these clouds. I did set a ceiling of 4,000 feet, but that doesn't quite seem to have taken, does it? So what's the aircraft like to fly? Well, in my opinion, it feels really good. I'm reluctant to talk too much about the flight model because I've never flown a Twin Otter or anything like it, so I don't know how realistic it is. What I can say is that the controls are very responsive. It's very easy to hand fly, very easy to keep in trim. Let's have a quick look at the various axes. So here are the ailerons. Feels good to me. And here are what the rudders do on their own, with no aileron input. Also feels pretty convincing to me. The elevator feels ever so slightly too sensitive. Now this is probably something you can mess around with in your sensitivity settings, I don't know. But just the tiniest little bit of back pressure on the yoke causes quite a lot of pitch-up movement. And the same when you push forward. And this is something that I found in the Just Flight Pipers as well. They just feel almost like you're pushing the nose up directly rather than controlling the elevator. It's hard to describe, and as I say, I've never flown this plane, so that could be prototypical, but it's more of an observation than a criticism. In general, as I say, it hand flies absolutely beautifully, very easy to control, very smooth. So we're descending towards St Mary's now. This is St Mary's Island, just behind the right windscreen wiper here, and the airport's about halfway along. So I'm going to bring my throttles right back, and you'll notice that the speed decreases really pretty quickly while you do that, even though we're already descending. So this isn't the sort of aircraft where you can just use idle throttle and let it descend of its own accord. You do need to keep a bit of an eye on the speed while you're doing that. And we'll level out at about 1,000 feet, something like that, and make a right base, which is what we're doing now, before making a turn to final for runway 32. And we'll trim. There is always a need to trim in this aircraft. Speed changes have quite a dramatic effect on the amount of pressure required on the yoke. And we'll get that speed into the white arc. And we'll get our first stage and our second stage of flaps out. Again, don't pay too much attention to the flap sounds. As I said earlier, the sounds are as yet incomplete. And we'll make a gentle sweeping turn to final at about 80 knots. And you can land this plane very, very slowly indeed, which is useful on a short runway. And with the flaps extended, I'm having to trim the nose down a little bit. Final stage of flaps. And I don't trust those pappies at all, especially since they just appeared on short final.
Minimums. 150, 40, 30, 20, 10.
And we're down. As I said, no touchdown sounds as of yet. A bit of reverse thrust, a bit of braking, and we should make the taxiway to our left. Yes, easy peasy. Easy peasy. And that is what makes this aircraft so fun. You can land it on a dime. Okay, we'll just pause here and I will run through the after landing actions as quickly as I can. We'll find somewhere to park. Now I know from bitter experience that if you follow this taxiway centreline you end up clipping the wing on this Skybus over here. So we're going to swing it round slightly early and park it on stand 4 here. And there we are, parking brakes set. Feather the prop levers. And again, I'll just show you those animations on the propellers. They are very clearly done in stages. There's nothing wrong with each one, but if that could be smoothed out a little bit, then that would be certainly an improvement. Generator switch is off. Fuel levers cut off. And once the engines stop, all of our lights can come off. We'll leave the no smoking sign on, I think. We're not that casual. Heater heat can come off as well. And we'll turn the boost pumps off. External battery switch to off. And DC master to off. And now we can get as many doors as we would like open. Door animations are solid. Speedy, but solid. And we'll open the passenger compartment door here as well. So there you have it, one preview flight in the Twin Otter complete, and I think is a great little plane, even in its current beta state. It's beautifully modelled inside and out, and it's a joy to fly. Although the sounds are currently incomplete, those that are included and working properly sound pretty convincing to me. Given that this add-on comes not only with the wheeled version we flew today, but also with ski, float and tundra tyre versions, I think the €29.95 asking price is fair. This is an incredibly versatile aircraft with loads of exciting real-world routes waiting for it, and I think it'll make a great addition to any MSFS hangar. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have, I hope you'll like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon here on Philbert Flies. Bye bye.